This video exists purely just so that I can get this artwork out into the world so that everyone can see it. I'm sure at some point everyone has wondered, was Bob Ross actually an evil wizard? Now I've put that thought into your head, it's not going to go away. Now before I go any further, I just want to explain that this artwork that you can see on Photoshop is not done by me. This is not my artwork. I'll put the artist's name up on the screen and I'll also link to their art station in the description below. I'm just using it just as a base to paint over, and the reason why I'm doing this is just purely because I just didn't have enough time to actually create the full artwork myself, because I created it for a Dungeons and Dragons campaign for my friends and I'm not using it commercially or anything like that. It was just a private game, but I thought I would share it with you guys because, you know, Bob Ross is an evil wizard. So I'm going to take you through the artwork and how I created it, and I'm also going to show you at the end of the video how I created a nice little notebook that you can make out of just a single sheet of paper. Like I said, I created this for a Dungeons and Dragons campaign that I DM'd as a one-shot with like my D&D group, and I needed a big baddie, so I thought, well, come on, Bob Ross, he totally is an evil wizard. So that was pretty easy to come up with. And when we play, we like to have some sort of visual representation. So I thought I would create something that they could look at while fighting against him. And this is what I come up with. So I took another artist's piece of work, and like I said, I'm not using this commercially or anything. I'm not claiming it as my own. This is clearly just me painting over the top of it because it is an amazing piece of artwork and it was just perfect for what I needed. So I wanted to turn his staff into a giant paintbrush because, I mean, Bob Ross does actually use a massive paintbrush to magically paint over the screen. I don't know if you remember the old Bob Ross videos of him painting over the screen. Now look, if that isn't evil wizard magic, I don't know what is. I don't know what to tell you. And second to that, I wanted to use lots of colours because although he does a lot of winter scenes, he does actually have a lot of beautiful colours in there. You know, he's got the phthalo blue, the alizarin crimson, and I come up with this great idea that as an evil wizard, he just wants to paint the world, but he's not using traditional paints. He's using the blood of his enemies, and he's using like the colours from the creatures around him. So he's draining children of their blood for the alizarin crimson, and he's like cutting out people's eyes for that phthalo blue colour, and he's like skinning goblins for that beautiful green colour, and you know where brown comes from. And to represent his love of colours, I figured that I would make his wizard's clothing, is it a dress? Like, is it a dress or is it a cloak? His gown, it's not a gown. And so to represent his love of colours, I figured that I would make him multicoloured, and also his little pet squirrel, Peapod, he would have a brightly coloured tail, that's my cat, and he would use his companion to lure in the children, kind of like the Pied Piper, but with the squirrel. And the squirrel's name is Peapod because I do believe that Bob Ross had an actual squirrel called Peapod, so he already has a familiar. You see, he is an evil wizard. So in Photoshop, what I did was I mainly used the clone tool to use the background to get rid of the top of the staff, and I wanted to turn that into a big fan paintbrush. And I used a hairbrush to do that, and it was actually pretty easy to do because, I mean, to be honest, the Photoshop brushes really make light work of everything, and it was so easy, just a few strokes and I had it there, and I just put a little bit of highlights from the light and everything, a little bit of blood because, you know, he is painting with blood. And of course I had him holding a very large palette with an eyeball on it and a goblin finger, so he's ready to go, ready to paint. And his head, of course, is actually Bob Ross. I didn't draw that, and his amazing afro, and I just fitted it over the artwork and then blended it in with some layer styles and some adjustments, and I think it came out pretty darn good, if I do say so myself. And he turns out to be a pretty evil wizard. Doing the paint over in Photoshop was pretty simple because, like I said, the artwork was already there and it was already a really amazing picture. To be honest, I couldn't have actually done something that good myself, so it was really helpful to have a base to start with and then just go from there. But because I didn't do very many changes, obviously, you know, I cannot use this commercially because it's not my artwork, even though I am putting my own artwork on top of it, it still doesn't mean that I can take this artwork and then sell it as my own. So if you're planning on doing anything like this, like painting over the top of someone else's artwork, you do need to remember that copyright is in place and you are restricted with anything commercial there. And like I said, this was just for a private game that we were playing, and it was just something fun. But I just wanted to show everyone because, you know, Bob Ross is an evil wizard. It just had to exist, and now it does. This exists in the world, and it's amazing. Now the second part of what I wanted to show you is how to make a little notebook out of just a single piece of paper, because in the campaign that I played I wanted them to find this on a dead body with a map in it and a diary and just some other details, but you could do anything with it really. You could make it like a diary like I did, or you can make it a spell book, a little sticker book. You could do a card for someone, like a gift. So there's really so many different options that you could do with this. So first up, opening up Photoshop, I had it set as A4, but I did later on change it to A3 because I wanted it to be a little bit larger. And all you need to do is divide it up into 8 sections. And I got a piece of artwork which looks like old paper, and I added that so that it looks like there's 8 sheets there. And then once I did that, I put a number on each sheet and then I printed that out. I did that so that I could print it out, make the prototype, and then I could see which page was going to be where, which was going to be the front cover, which one was going to be in the middle, and one, you know, and which was going to be at the back. If you started creating the artwork first, or the drawings or writings, whatever you want to put in the book first, then you may not know which page shows up where, so it could turn out with some pages upside down. So make sure that you do this first if you're going to be doing it yourself. So once I did a printout and I created a little book, I then just put the artwork in place, and like I said, I created a little diary with this, and I made up, you know, dates and just a little story just to give a little backstory to the character. And there's a few hints in there for the players to actually use in the campaign. To make the book is really, really simple. All you need to do is print out the sheet of paper and then fold it lengthways, and you want to fold it so that you've got the artwork on the outside. Once you've done that, you want to fold it over again and then fold it over once more, so that each of the 8 pieces of like inner paper gets a crease along the edge. Once you've done that, unfold it again, and you want to put a small nick in the top of the fold in the center. This is just so that when you open up the paper, you can get the scissors into the middle of the paper. You want to cut along the crease at the top, but don't go all the way. As you can see on the screen the way I'm doing it, you just want to go across to the top of 2 of the inner pieces of paper. Then fold your piece of paper over again, and then you want to open up that inner piece that you've just cut, and then you want to fold the edges so that they stick out. Then make sure you've got your paper oriented, and then you just fold up the pieces of paper as you can see the way I did it on screen. And that's it. That's it. That's done. That's the book. It's really as simple as that. Now I went a step further and I put a cover on this, and to do that I printed out an A4 sheet of paper. Half of it had the cover on it and the other half, well, I messed up here. It should have been just a blank inner cover, but I thought that it was going to be the first page. So make sure that when you print it out, you've got half the cover and half for the inner cover. All you need to do really is to fold that in half and wrap it around the book. But because I messed up, I ended up cutting off the inner cover, and then I printed out some more plain paper, and then when I wrapped the cover around the book, I just stuck on some pages. Now that actually worked really well because I left a little bit overhanging onto the first page, and I was able to stick it down there, and that actually kept the cover attached to the book. So you can do it either way. I did it this way because I messed up, but as you can see, it's really simple to do. So if you create a little booklet as well, I would love to see what you come up with. And I really hope you enjoyed the Bob Ross sort of artwork painting thingy I did, because I truly believe he really is an evil wizard.